Laws and policies that affect teaching in your classroom. Maya is a new teacher. She is ready to get out there and teach. But does she know what education policies are out there and how those education policies affect her classroom? Maya, it's a good thing that I just learned about education policies and how they affect our classrooms in my teaching certification program. I would love to give you an overview of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, No Child Left Behind, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Let's start with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. One of the most important education laws that affects our students' classrooms and schools is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, also known as the ESEA. This civil rights law, which was originally part of the Johnson administration's War on Poverty campaign, sought to improve educational equity by providing federal funds to school districts serving students from lower income families and other underserved students. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act is the largest source of federal funding for elementary and secondary education. ESEA offers grants to districts serving low-income students, federal grants for textbooks and library books, funding for special education centers, and scholarships for low-income college students. This law first brought attention to the concept of education equity and the need for extra support for historically disadvantaged schools and students. As schools have to show how they've worked to provide a quality education to all students in return for funding, a huge legacy of the law is the concept of accountability in education. At my school, there is a huge focus on this law's legacy of ensuring educational equity and accountability. In particular, we examine implicit bias we may have that may support institutionalized racism, classism, and sexism in order to ensure that we are treating all students fairly and supporting them appropriately. For example, as a school, our data showed that students of color were more likely to score lower in the area of socio-emotional skills and habits of community stewardship on their report cards. As a result, we are creating a rubric that will ensure that grading decisions are objective, based on evidence, and not influenced by implicit bias. We also focus on accountability by examining and reporting disaggregated student data and identifying and implementing strategies to improve student learning outcomes. Our data is shared with parents and on our website. Now, let's move on to No Child Left Behind. Over the years, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act has been reauthorized several times, including in January 2002 as the No Child Left Behind Act. The federal government noticed that as all students were not tested annually, there wasn't enough data to tell how specific groups of students were performing. Policymakers decided that greater accountability was needed by schools. When annual testing began, data showed that many students, including African American, Latino, students in special education, and English language learning students, were being left behind academically. In order to ensure quality education for all students, the federal government proposed greater transparency and accountability measures.
Created using Powtoon.